Had a baby shark. Over here to the right is building number 1. This was the first masonry building built on the old Navy base back in 1852. The first floor was a coaling depot. The second floor was a sailmaker's loft. It is our Clinton Square Market today. Closest thing you're going to find to a mall anywhere on the island. That red brick building next door is Old 91, built back in 1891. It was our customs house. Today it's an art history museum. It's also a fine example of government spending. You see those tall slanted red roofs? Those are snow roofs. Not really necessary. Here, we're the only frost-free city in the continental United States. But when it was built, all government buildings had to have them. Also on the right, the Mel Fisher Maritime Museum. That's where you can find the treasures of the Etosha. The Etosha sank in 1622. Mel Fisher searched for it for 16 years before he discovered it in 1985. Since then, they pulled up over $400 million worth of treasure off of that ship. And a lot of it is on display right back there in that museum. Over to the right, these green gates are the presidential gates. Only open for visiting presidents. They lead back to the Harry Truman Little White House. Harry Truman spent 11 working vacations here on the island. On the right is Kelly's. That was home to Pan American Airlines in 1927. Today it's the southernmost brewery, and it was owned by Kelly McGillis. You might recognize that name. She starred in Top Gun. The well in front of the house to the right we call the Pirate's Well, used back in the 1700s. It's one of the few sources, of fresh water on the island. We actually get our water here piped in from the mainland, and before we had the pipes, we had to collect rainwater. On the right, this was home to Dr. Joseph Yates Porter. He was born in that house in 1847. He died in the same room 80 years later. He was Florida's first public health official, and he helped eradicate yellow fever by establishing quarantine procedures, which was a new idea at the time. Coming up on the left is the Curry Mansion. The Curry family came here from the Bahamas in 1847. William Curry was a wrecker. He became Florida's first millionaire. That house was built by his son with his inheritance money in 1899. The original Curry Mansion is a Hard Rock Cafe today. I'll point it out when we pass it on Duval Street in a little bit. Coming up on the left is the Cypress House, built in 1888 for the Kemp family. When we drive past, you'll notice that there really isn't any paint on the exterior. That's because when it was built, if a house wasn't painted, the tax collector assumed that it was not completed and did not levy any taxes. They never got around to painting it for some reason. People ask me if that works today. It does not. It probably didn't help them any when in 1931, directly across the street, they built the Federal Building. That's built out of fossilized coral that was quarried out of the Middle Keys. It used to be home to our courthouse, customs, post office, still home to customs and immigration, since we are an international port of call here in Key West. Now, in the 60s and 70s, this area of town was a rather rough and tumble neighborhood. This street was lined with bars. One in particular is called the Red Doors Tavern. We're approaching it up here on the right. It became known locally as the Bucket of Blood because of all the fights that broke out here. They said when you went in, if you did not have a weapon, the bartender would issue you one. Today it's a ladies' boutique. Also on the right is Pepe's. That's the oldest eating establishment in the Keys, established back in 1909. It was said to be one of Harry Truman's favorite lunch spots. The yellow building over here to the left is the Flagler Station Museum. It's a small museum where you can go to learn a little bit more about the history of Flagler's Railroad coming down here through the Keys. The entrance is the white stairwell that's towards the back of the building, and it does close every day right around 3:30. We're pulling into our stop 2 here. This is the stop for the old historic seaport, Max Sea Garden, and the Flagler Station Museum.